Good afternoon. It is Tuesday, August 31st. I skipped yesterday. Gamed with my buddies. It was fun. Oh well. I got off work today, and I'm preheating the oven. Gonna make myself some Bagel Pizzas. Not related to any other product you might have thought. Yeah, Bagel Pizzas, because when pizza is on a bagel, you can have bagels anytime. So I'll have some of those. That'll be lunch. I don't know. I'll have some of those. I'll probably end up making like pasta or something that's a little more filling, because I feel like having enough of those to fill me up will probably not be a smart decision. Anyways, but it is Tuesday, so I'm gonna have that as just a little variety option. I picked those up for some variety. Movie day. I mean, I can watch all sorts of things. I can go back to James Bond. No. I mean, I just opened this shelf. I watched a movie last week, but really, do I watch one movie off of this shelf and be like, all right, well, glad I got it, and move on? No, I mean, I've had all these movies I've been talking about. Gee, I can watch movies from this shelf. So I was thinking, and I made a decision. I'm gonna watch Monty Python's The Meaning of Life. Now, as a kid, I was introduced to Holy Grail. Great movie. Very funny. And as I got older, I think the next thing I saw was Meaning of Life, or it might have been the 16-ton mega set of Flying Circus that I bought. I think it was after that I got Life with Brian. I love Flying Circus. As much as, you know, as a kid, it was Monty Python. Oh yeah, they're the people from Holy Grail, but it's not how it is now. Flying Circus, I've seen so much of and enjoyed so much. That is so much of who they are. And I feel that, in some extent, Meaning of Life is a little closer to that sort of comedy. Which might make it where it doesn't tie together as great of a single story. So this is a great movie, and a terrible movie, to my recollection. But I haven't seen it in years. But I'm looking forward to smiling. So I'm gonna watch The Meaning of Life. What? No, that's not what I'm supposed to be watching. Oh, yeah, that's the movie I'm intending to watch. And this movie is rubbish. An arbitrary collection of a whole bunch of single skits, loosely given the excuse that they belong together, based on some theme of relating to life in general. Huh. Rubbish. And I give The Meaning of Life 9 out of 10. I love it. It's great. I love it. It is fantastic. On all technical situations, it is. It's a bunch of random skits which are loosely held together, and we are told the excuse of, well, it's, you know, the meaning of life, which is really not even about the meaning of life, although about halfway through the movie they start making some jokes about that. But it's just different acts held together by the different phases of life, and here, going through life, you know, from birth to education to killing each other to, you know, those kind of things. Just the normal phases of life. But it's hilarious and it's fun. I enjoy it. It's great. And I like the skit nature. And at the very end of the film, as they're rolling into the credits, they even play a little clip of the theme music and show as a TV is floating into space, like a TV's in space, the intro for, like the title part of the intro for Flying Circus, which checks out, because if you watch Flying Circus, the introductory title for it, as the series goes on, is not always at the beginning. In fact, it kind of moves further and further into the episodes as things go, until it's basically shown at the end of them. So having it at the end of the movie totally checks out. Great. But there are no consistent characters. It's not like you're following a character's story or anything like that. That is not what this movie is. but it's fun. It's enjoyable. A little crude. It's rated R, and for reason. But it's fun. So, briefly talking about it, and there is no, all the text on the back of the box, like there's no, the closest thing to a description is, it took God 6 days to create the earth, and Monty Python just 1 hour and 48 minutes to screw it up. That's the closest thing to a description of the movie, because you can't describe it concisely, because it's just a bunch of skits. So we start with the Crimson Permanent Assurance, the short feature before the feature, which Terry Gilliam, the American Python, did. And he kind of went over budget, using lots of miniatures and cool stuff, but no one told him to stop, so he just kept going. But it has nothing to do with the rest of the film, and we move on to The Meaning of Life after that, which starts with sort of an animated intro, and music. It's like a song, because I mean, it's a light musical. There are like 7 songs throughout the movie. It's fun. We go into, subjects of birth and education, and then we get, in each one of them, each like segment, like there's a few like jokes, under each segment, like, you have birth, making fun of the hospital, and birth in the third world, making fun of Roman Catholics having too many children, and they call Yorkshire the third world. And those are all under the header of, Part 1, birth. Part 2, education. Part 3, killing each other. Where we get, war, scenes of soldiers, really just showing each other how much they care for each other out in the fields of battle, and military education, and going into jokes of officers, and a whole thing about an office, how the British officers are upstanding, and everyone around them is dying, but they're just wanting to make sure the officers are fine. And one of the officers has got a bad bite, a hole in the mosquito net, and a tiger got in and took his leg. Just grow back in the morning, will it? Moving on to the middle of the film, which is absurd. Like a drug trip center of the film, and then the fish come in and are like, we haven't talked about the meaning of life much, have we? Oh, I'm sure they're building up to it. So we go to a scene of I think then we go to middle-aged. And we have a couple at some sort of hotel, and they're going up to the front desk, we're looking for something to eat. We like pineapple. Oh, have you tried the dungeon room? Authentic Hawaiian cuisine served in an authentic medieval dungeon. But when they go in there, rather than menus for food, they give them a menu for conversation. What do you want to talk about? And well, after looking at a few options, they decide on philosophy, discussing the meaning of life. Although that wasn't very good, so they end up moving on to live organ transplants, which I think is what they call part 5 of life. Live organ transplants. It's generally the 5th stage of one's life, I suppose, where someone went and got a liver donor card, and, well, the folks came to collect. Now, it says, upon death, but they assured him that no one's lived through them taking out the liver. Go into the Galaxy song, where liver donor people are, really just trying to convince, or have someone convince this current liver donor's wife that she should donate her liver too, because life is so insignificant. Then we go into the very big Corporation of America, which is a little scene that helps them use the budget that was used on the pre-feature to get a little footage for the main feature as well. Corporations discussing things like if they can somehow own souls, and that perhaps people are not wearing enough hats. Then we go into Mr. Crusoe. We go into a fancy restaurant, and in walks Mr. Crusoe, a very large man. And this is a scene that I've referenced a time or two and gotten great joy out of it. Would you like a wafer thin mint? Because it's this fancy waiter as this fat guy comes in and is literally vomiting as he goes. But the waiter is just bowing over it, just does not care. You serve this man because he looks at this fancy, expensive menu and it says, "I'll have the lot." It's like, oh, he spends a lot of money. Everyone else in the restaurant disgusted, leaving, vomiting from it. But he spends more money than everyone else, so he's the one that you serve to. But in the end, would you like a wafer thin mint? I couldn't. I'm stuffed. Is wafer thin? Alright. It was in the mint. It ducks behind cover as Mr. Crusoe explodes, and you got like the inside with like a beating heart and open ribs. And everyone's cover, that's left in the restaurant is covered in gore, and now they're vomiting. It's a disgusting scene, and it's hilarious. And then we take a step back to a little bit later in that same restaurant, the meaning of it all, where Eric Idle, as Gaston, the waiter, leads you. Follow me, follow me. It is an absurdly long scene of follow me, for him to show you a simple point. This is where I was born. My mother said, be good to people, make them happy, and so I became a waiter. But it's not much of a philosophy, but it is mine. If you do not like it, then screw you. Do not follow me. And then we get into death. Couple of scenes on death, including Death, the Grim Reaper himself, collecting people from eating the salmon mousse at a dinner party, which is really embarrassing, as Death has come and told the dinner party guests that they've died because of the food. How embarrassing for the host. Ugh. But they make their way up to heaven, where it is Christmas in heaven. More musical number, finishing off the film. I do always laugh at that concept. It's Christmas in heaven, so Christmas, where we celebrate Jesus' birthday. Every day is Christmas in heaven, you say. And I think from my bit here talking about the movie, you might be able to comprehend that it's chaotic. No connecting characters from one scene to the next. And there are scenes I skipped in there, because there are more, but it's just all these little bits and jokes in scenes tied together, with the only structure being that it's going through the phases of life, and clearly some of those phases of life are rubbish, and it's because they had an idea for a funny skit, and they shoehorned it in, and I'm glad they did, because it's funny, and I laughed. It's fun. It's a fun movie. It's not a good movie. Doesn't make sense as like a feature film. But it still brings me joy. So I like it. I give it a 9 out of 10. Does it deserve it? No, absolutely not. But you know what? It's my rating system, and I love the movie. That's it. That's all I'm talking about. It's movie day. I talk about the movie, and then I end the day. What am I going to do afterwards? I am probably going to sit and edit something. Probably make like some pasta, because pizza bagels aren't all that filling. That's it. Join me as my journey continues.